Yeah, that was a massive dragon with a mouthful of corpses. Not a great first sight here. Boletaria Palace is in a bit of a troubling spot as of late, as you may be able to tell by all the burning fire pits. Welcome indeed. Let's rate that up. If I can remember how to do it. Hello. There we go. If you're feeling a tad afraid, you can always return to the Nexus by using the Archstone here. Good if, say, you have enough souls to purchase an item that you're interested in. Oh, and much like heading left in any 2D side-scrolling game, let's head in the opposite direction of where we're facing, to find secrets. Bit of a nice healing item. A reward for exploring. And there's the Boletarian Castle Gate, which is sealed. No getting out. So let's venture forward slowly here. 'Cause as you may notice, we're not quite alone. There's a whole bunch of dreglings is what they're called. Not too difficult to deal with, but if you just run forward without any consideration, you will get mobbed by them, and then you might have a spot of trouble. As this poor horsey here did. Caution is always a good idea in this video game, especially considering our health situation. So the whole dying and our soul being trapped and us losing our physical form, that's not just like a flavor thing, that has actual gameplay implications. For one, you may have noticed we're not making any noise. No footsteps, no rustling of cloth or armor, just complete silence. If a soul falls in a forest, does it make a sound? Not in this game. More relevant though is our HP situation, which if you look in the upper left, you might have noticed before in fact, is not so great. Our HP bar is currently halved, and that means yes, our health is halved. Down to 265 from a little over 600 before. 500. I'm not good at math. And right there we have perhaps the most contentious gameplay feature of the game. The fact that when you die in human form, you end up going into soul form where you have half health. And that just really diminishes a lot of players' interest in the game. Because they see, well fuck, I only have half the HP, how the hell am I gonna survive? This game is brutal. But what they don't realize is that the developers were, for the most part, smart enough to account for that. These areas, the enemies, the damage that they deal, it's all balanced around you having half health. Being at full health is actually a bonus. And if you keep that in mind, I think you'll have not too much trouble going forward. At least not more than the developers intended. Just keep that in mind. So right here we have a somewhat cryptic message left by another player, but it's about as clear of a hint as they could have provided. Oh, freaking jerkbag. I'm trying to explain video game stuff here. Die. I actually forgot about that boy. Whoops. So yeah, we'll get into this later, but there are a number of really obscure, arcane, and esoteric mechanics in this game. One of them being soul tendency. It affects things and it's quite complicated, but we don't have to worry about it for now. Just know that it has an effect right here. But for now, let's just continue along the critical path. Maybe making sure to heal a little bit. Don't want to be too risky now. And maybe even actually make use of the things that we stat with. One of the things I love is that these little barricades actually have a hole that is perfectly placed for you to shoot spells through. Almost like it was designed with that intent. Here comes the peanut grenade. Peanut gallery. I don't know why I said grenade. Fortunately, there being so many dreglings about isn't actually a bad thing. As for killing them, we're just picking up more and more souls, which we can use to buy items. Which is really kind of horrible if you think about it, because remember, every single one of these souls was at one point a human life that was sucked out from its physical vessel. These here, by the way, are the remaining physical vessels, if you hadn't realized. I brought up the whole wealth thing before, but now more than ever, I feel like there's actually a pretty strong capitalist reading of this game. Or anti-capitalist, I suppose I should say. I won't be getting into that here, though. I have enough on my plate just discussing the game's mechanics. So we immediately see 3 paths open to us, 2 of which are barred. We might come back around to that later. Just saying. And as far as mechanics go, I just showed off 2 right there. 1, the fact that I did boosted damage with my soul arrow. That is because I struck the enemy while it was attacking, thus gaining a damage boost. The other was that upon killing the enemy, they made a larger soul whooshing noise. And that is an overkill mechanic. If you end up doing enough damage, I want to say it's 120% of their total health, you'll actually end up getting bonus souls. So that is one advantage that pure burst damage has, and why quicker weapons aren't necessarily the king. Magic, though, is always good. So right here we have a pit. It looks like it might be some sort of portal, perhaps, but it's just a death pit. Yeah, it's not like a portal. Those are souls streaming about from people who died by falling down there. And I'd rather not join them, so let's avoid that. So yeah, keeping a good mind of things. Just panning your camera around and watching every corner is always a good idea. The Dreglings might not be the most intelligent of folks, but they do have a certain craft and cleverness about them. They really like trying to ambush you is what I'm saying. Ooh, firebombs. I must say I am a fan of pyrokinetics. But we'll be saving those. We could lob them against these soldier boys here, but they have a better use. Our magic does just fine, anywho. And for making it this far, we come to another fog wall. As I said before, these act as sort of checkpoints, telling you, hey, you actually made a good amount of progress. Keep up the good work, buddy. It's a nice little bit of encouragement from the game. Praise be to Havoc Physics. Ooh, a mail breaker. That is actually a piece of starting equipment that the knight starts with. It too is a rapier, but a much weaker one than the one that we currently have. It has a bit more durability, but that's not really worth worrying about. If it's your only option for having a rapier or a quick weapon, it's not bad. But rapier is pretty much purely superior, so needless to say, we won't be using it. That's the thing about this game, is that there is a lot of arguably redundant equipment. Whole slews of swords that are just better or worse versions of other swords, and so on and so forth for other weapon types. So a lot of the items you'll end up be picking up, you probably won't ever bother using. I guess if I were to say one thing about it, it would be that if you find a weapon that you're happy with, you might as well just stick with it. There might be something better, but there might also not be. And there's really no way to know in advance, so if what you're doing is good, then just stick with it. But if you feel that your damage is not quite good enough, it can be a good idea to experiment with other weapons, armor sets, spells, etc. That's the flip side of there being a whole slew of equipment, is you always have upgrade options, potentially. If nothing else, it's worth keeping in mind. But of course, as the Royal, we are quite set, and will be for quite some time. I will of course be having polls to vote for future equipment options, as I said previously. So if you want me to go through the game with less overpowered gear, you have the ability to do that. Of course, even with our OP abilities, we still do have to be careful, because can't magic everything to death. There we go. Little did he know, though, that boy actually helped us out. Because he let us access this right here, the Bastard Sword. Talk about equipment upgrades, let's have a gander at this thing. It is a large sword class weapon. Versatile as the straight sword, but its heaviness essentially requires it to be used with both hands. Its crushing blows rapidly deplete an opponent's stamina, easily breaking their guards. So one of the heftier weapons, and as a result requiring quite a bit of strength to wield, that 18 strength required down there at the bottom of its card, right above the durability. Yeah, we don't really meet that. And so if we were to try using this thing, well, we'd swing it just fine, but let's try it out on that enemy up ahead and see how it goes. Yeah, not very well. You need stats to use weapons. This is an RPG after all. But if you want to see this thing out with its full power, well, simply vote for it. And I'll make sure we can use it. For now, though, it's going back in the bag. Okay, there's a jerk still trying to fire at us, so let's heal up and deal with him. Fortunately, not all that difficult to deal with. Do watch out for the firebombs, though, they hurt quite a bit. So, one thing you may have noticed is that we were led over in this direction by those enemies. The fact that we were attacked by a ranged man. Obviously, you're going to want to come over here and deal with him to prevent him from bothering you. That just makes sense. And so you're led down this path. But as this other player has warned us, beginners should try this area later because, well, yeah, that gentle lad up there. He looks quite ominous, doesn't he? We're going to be ignoring him, at least for the moment. I mean, you can try and fight him, and perhaps you could even succeed, but I would not count on it. The blue-eyed knights are much more speed. So we know very well that fog walls mean progress by this point, so let's go anywhere but progress. It's always a good way to handle progression in video games, and that's no less true here. If we were to head just further inward, we would miss so many useful items, such as these 6 firebombs here. Which, we could actually make use of here, because as these boys will hopefully show us, fire ignites explosive barrels. Thanks for that, friends. Oh, I do love the Dreglings AI. They are just so eager to murder me, and it is adorable. Oh hey, I recognize that spot down there. And hey, we even dropped items down there that we can now collect. Nice. See? I told you we'd be rewarded for exploration. But perhaps the greatest reward comes up ahead, after we deal with this mob of boys right here. Alright, we don't need all this healing grass on here. We only need the basic varieties at the moment. The stronger stuff is best saved for later when we actually have a decent amount of HP. So let's just put some fire bombs on. And go to town. Using the lock-on in combination with a bit of free aiming to good effect here. Doesn't get rid of every last one of these boys, but it does take out quite a good few. And it's a good idea to do that because, though we've not been hit by their attacks just yet, let me just say these torch boys here do quite a lot of damage. So if you can deal with them at a distance, I would definitely recommend it. But, as I said, perhaps the greatest reward for coming this way is right here in the form of a shortcut. So now, if we die and we're forced to start over from the beginning, because that is how it works, although hopefully we won't end up seeing that at any point, we would be able to return to where we last were much more quickly. I love shortcut-focused level design, and this game is a masterclass in using that. Additionally, we have a number of useful items to pick up: the cling ring, the old ragged set, and the jade hair ornament. Let's have a look at all of those. The cling ring being perhaps the most important because, look at that, lose less HP when in soul form. We have a gander at our HP bar. Yeah, it's a lot bigger now. So now when we die, our HP reduction is capped at 75%. And that is a huge boon to have. Basically, you'll be having this ring on anytime you're in soul form. It's one of the best rings in the game, and they give it to you almost immediately. Kind of as a reward for making it this far with half HP. As for the other items, we have a new armor set. Robes made of layers of ragged fabric, covered with tears, unsightly open seams, and numerous unsightly insects wiggling within it. No sane person would dare wear something like this. Well, you're right, buddy, but I'm wearing it nonetheless. Maggots. And something else you might have noticed, although perhaps not because I did flash by it quite quickly. Female only. One of the really, really dumb things about this game is that some armor sets are gender restricted. You can only wear them if you make a male or female character. It's really stupid, and that's probably why it does not show up in any of the sequels. Part of the reason I love being female characters in this game is because their armor sets are far and away some of the best, in my opinion. Although there are some good male ones as well. Anyway, the last item we picked up is the jade hair ornament. Could it belong to a poor little girl? Perhaps. Maybe we'll find out at some point. I mean, we don't know any poor little girls, but maybe someone else does. But with that shortcut unlocked and items collected, let's head back up and actually work to making some progress. Okay, I just said we would make progress, but I kind of lied because we do have a few things I want to check out beforehand. This little drop here, which doesn't do too much damage because fall damage isn't all that big of a thing, and leads to a crossbow. The only reason why I bothered to pick this up is for the sake of completion, as well as showing off how to actually get up to this area with the lad. Because the thing is, crossbows in this game are not that great. Let's actually equip it just to see how it operates and then never ever use it. So you have to equip it in one hand and then ammunition as well. We may not have the abilities, but by two-handing it we boost our strength by 50%, thus allowing us to effectively use it. We can then fire it. However, there is no aiming mechanic with crossbows. There is with bows, however. So to fire with this thing, we would need to be close enough to an enemy to lock on. So it's more limited in its ranged capabilities than the bow, which can freely aim. But it's also not nearly as strong as, say, magic, which has a similar restriction, which is why it's not that great. The starting damage isn't all that good, and unlike pretty much every other piece of equipment, you can't actually upgrade the thing. So what little usefulness it does have drops off incredibly quickly. Suffice it to say, crossbows in this game are just not worth using at all. Alright, before we head onward, let's check out this direction over here. I would be remiss if I didn't show this off. This common experience that happens to pretty much every new player. Yep. And just look at how much damage we took. If we did not have the cling ring, that almost certainly would have one-shot us. That is the strength of the Red-Eyed Knights. Remember how I said we wouldn't be blocking too much? This is one of the few instances where we will be. Because we do not want to be hit by his attacks. In fact, honestly, let's not even deal with him. Let's just run past and steal his treasure. It's a pretty big soul item. Yeah, he's strong enough to fell a hero. We probably should not be dealing with him. The door, by the way, is locked, so let's just leave that lad alone. It's kind of funny, that did not go how I was expecting. I was hoping either to get the parry and look all badass, or just unceremoniously die and show off what it is like for most new players, but neither of those ended up happening. I'll take it though, it saves me some time. I don't actually have to backtrack here. So with that shown off, and don't worry, we will be back later to deal with him properly, let's actually make some progress. There's a lad down there. Doesn't seem like he's threatening. In fact, he seems to be trapped there. Perhaps we could help him. First, though, let's deal with that boy. In case you are wondering, yes, he will try and lob firebombs at you if you walk forward. And no, it probably won't go well for you. Just wanted to take him out to be safe. But yes, that boy is trapped there, so let's try and help him. A cool little feature that this game has, and that was removed from all future games, is if you are rubbing up against a chest-high wall, you can actually vault over it. Worth keeping in mind to get some harder to reach areas in this game. Areas that usually have pretty good stuff, like that thief's ring, but we'll get to that after we talk.
That was a bold jump. A surprise indeed. Well, now that you are here, pray thee, fend off these dreglings. That was a bold jump. Well,
Yeah, he doesn't exactly want to converse with us yet, not until we've dealt with these dreglings. You know, though, you could help us here, buddy. I mean, come on. Really? You're just gonna stand there, let us do all the work? Fuck you.
what on earth are you doing?
It's fine, though. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend doing that. Attacking NPCs without good reason. I just did it because I knew it would be fine. You have to do a certain amount of damage to actually piss them off. I always just like doing that because Ostrava here, as we'll learn his name is kind of a bit of a chump, and we're just going to end up having to baby him a lot.
My thanks for your brave rescue. I am Ostrava of Boletaria. Accept this as a token of my gratitude.
He does pay us for his services, though, so it's not all bad. And hey, get back here. You have more to say.
Now, I must go. There is something for me to take care of.
Alright, well, is that thing those maddened soldiers? Because, you're not doing a great job of it, I'll say that. Really? You're just gonna... Fine, Ostrava. Ugh. See what I meant about having to baby him? He's not very strong, he's dumb as a brick, and he just loves to wander all around here into all sorts of enemies. Fortunately, where he will wander is limited, so once you've gotten rid of all of the enemies in the immediate area, you don't have to worry about him anymore. It's only a temporary babysitting job. Still one that I would much rather do without, but hey, it is what it is. I guess he does serve as a somewhat useful distraction in some instances. There we go, much better. Didn't get all of them, but oh, it is satisfying. The sound design in this game is just so good. It kinda has to be, considering the fact that, as you may have noticed, there really hasn't been much in the way of music up to this point. The only track we've had was the boss music when fighting the Demon Vanguard. And that'll pretty much hold true for the rest of the game. Music only during boss fights, that is. Ah, come on, Ostrava, where the heck did you get to now? You're not dying somewhere, are you? I think he might have wandered back over this way. Yep, there he is. It's not safe over there, honey. Come on, come over here. Nope. He just does not listen. He's really impetulant. Fortunately, with that enemy dead, he should be pretty much safe from now on. So now he'll just wander back and forth.
No matter how far I venture, only the soul-starved remain. Is there a single sane person left in Boletaria?
He'll be fine.
No matter how far is there...
So yeah, that's as much as we'll be seeing of him for now, but if you thought that would be the last, oh nope, we'll be babying him in the future as well. Okay, maybe we're being a little bit too cavalier ourselves. Let's head back a bit. Heal up using one of our many grasses, and reconsider things. Like I said before, getting the jump on the enemy is good, but not if you end up getting hit by their counterattacks. It's a measured pace to the combat. Unfortunately, those crossbowmen are a bit too far up above for us to hit at the moment, so we'll just have to deal with their japery for the moment. However, heading back here, you may notice us coming back to some familiar ground. If we come far enough over here, yep, this was the firebomb ambush spot, and leading back to around where Ostrava was trapped. It's been a while since we parried. And in case you are wondering, yes, I pretty much can parry on demand. Why do you ask? Listen, yes, I'm showing off, but the Souls games are one of the few game series I can actually say that I'm somewhat good at, so I'm gonna show off. You're just gonna have to put up with me. So here we have a number of protections put up. Almost as if someone was trying to hide away from the danger. Someone we might be able to talk with? It is one of the only few sane Dreglings.
Good day to you. Care to look over my wares? Mostly stolen, but who's telling ye?
He is quite the cheery fellow considering the circumstances.
Be a brave knight or depraved slave, the demons will snatch your soul, and you'll go mad. And those who dare cling to their humanity are hunted down. It is the end of great Boletaria as we know it. But hell, at least the demons don't send us to our deaths in battle.
I mean, fair.
There's this skinny fella, clad in fabulous armor, who's always mumbling about some mission. He's another one who's managed to stay sane like yourself. Probably some pampered son by the looks of his attire. I'd give an arm just for the buttons off his shirt. It is the end of great Boletaria as we know it. But hell, at least the demons don't send us to our deaths in battle.
I do so love his laugh and just general demeanor. Thank you, Dregling friend. So the main reason to talk to him, other than his charming personality, is that he is a quite useful merchant. Selling 2 tiers of grass, more fire bombs, although at a quite high price, and Soldier's Lotus if you need to heal bleeding. He also sells a few more weapon options than Boldwin was offering, including some extra shields. Useful if you started with a class that didn't have a good one and you do want to try blocking. Some ammunition, as well as some armor. Again, most of this is quite expensive, so you're probably not going to be able to afford it. Still, if you feel you're taking a bit too much damage, it could help to put on a coat of plate.
Go ahead, take your time. I'm not going anywhere.
We may be making use of his services in the future. For now, though, we'll be leaving him be. And with that finished off, let's continue making progress once more. We can deal with the second floor one, not the third floor though. He is, yep, still too far out of our distance. Yeah, we have to deal with the lock-on range bullshit, but enemies don't. They even have curving bolts. Fucking cheating bastards, I swear. But even though we do have to go around the long way, we will be dealing with all of these troublesome fellows. We'll be leaving Boletaria even more soul-starved than it was when we entered it. Are we the baddies? Probably. Although that did not quite kill him. Let's see, come on, can I lock on? Ah, gonna have to drop down. And unfortunately, we cannot attack upon our descent, although we can kind of Goomba stomp him. I mean, yes, we could have also left him alone, but nah, he pissed me off. For that, he gets the ultimate penalty. And once more, we come to progress. That is a lot of boys ahead. And some even nastier fellows lurking in the distance, you may notice. Rather than rushing forward, let's take a gander at things. Environmental awareness combined with other player hints gives us a pretty useful option here. I still think this is one of the most satisfying moments I've ever had in this game, just doing this every run. It's a nice, satisfying high early on. Oh wow, they were lined up perfectly, weren't they? And I just kind of ruined it. Sorry there, buddies. I ruined your death formation. This is a pretty good tip. It is good to be on your guard in this upcoming section, not because of these boys, although if you're new, they can be somewhat tricky. In fact, I think I'm just gonna cheese in with magic. They are perhaps the one enemy in the first level here that I am not great at parrying. I swear I'm not great at parrying them. No, the actual threat lies over in this direction over here. Yep, those are some Durgans over there. And as you may guess, they would not take too kindly to us if we approached their roost. Case in point. I was not actually expecting to die there, in case you were curious. I had kind of forgotten that he just shot flame breath straight at you. I thought I had more time to evade, but hey, this gives me a chance to show off the death mechanics. So as I stated before, if you die, you end up returning to the start, at the archstone that you warped into the level from. You must then make your way back to where you died. This is why shortcuts are so ridiculously valuable, because with them having been opened up, you greatly reduce your overall travel time. Another way to do so is to just kind of ignore trying to fight things and just run past them. There is of course the risk of being swamped, stun-locked, and then dying, which ends up causing its own troubles. But if you're somewhat skilled, it's not too much of a risk. And honestly, in my opinion, in some instances it can be in fact safer to just run past things, rather than try and fighting them. Something else you may have noticed, our soul counter in the bottom right. It is considerably lower than it was previously. Yeah, another thing that happens when you die is that you lose all of your souls. Although not permanently, I'll note. Not necessarily permanently. For now, let's just make our way back to where we died, shall we? I will be killing a few enemies on the way, the more problematic ones. or the ones that give a decent amount of souls, like the Blue-Eyed Knights. It's just good praxis. As you can see, if you approach a level from a different path, you may end up having different challenges to deal with. Tackling the enemy formations in different ways. Every time. But yeah, as you can see, we made it back to where we died in almost no time at all. Seriously, don't underestimate the power of the Joestar secret technique. And once again, I swear I really am bad at parrying these boys. I'm just having a good amount of luck here, it seems. I think the game is taking pity on me for that rather unfortunate death we just had. So, you may notice that where we died, there's a bit of a new thing. Another bloodstain, much like those left by other players, but with some souls leaking out of it. That, my friends, is our bloodstain. And by touching it, we regained lost soul, and thus recovered the souls that we lost. If, however, we died again on the way to this point, we would leave a new bloodstain, erasing the old one and any souls it contained. So try not to die twice in a row. And though this might seem like a foolhardy thing to do, we can approach from this lower pathway here. We will still end up pissing off the flame-breathing dragon, but he can't quite reach us. And as you might be able to tell by this great glow over here, there are some pretty useful items. Some good healing, and more importantly, shards of archstone. These send us back to the Nexus, much like the Nexial binding, but without losing our souls. So if, say, you felt that we were close to death, and wanted to use those souls, rather than potentially losing them, we could do that. Do use these sparingly, however, as they are fairly rare. The archstones that the Monumental entrusted to the Elders have been forgotten, and are now left for the mice to gnaw at. The shards of archstone, additionally, are actually employed in a rather interesting glitch I'll be showing off at some point. Probably not for a while, but if you're in the know, you probably know what I'm talking about. If you're not in the know, you have just one more thing to look forward to with this excellent Let's Play of mine. I mean, yeah, I guess that's narrow, at least by some accounts. Kind of depends on what you're approaching with. So that's a whole lot of boys to deal with now, isn't it? Fortunately, we need not deal with them ourselves. We can actually make use of our erstwhile friend here. He kind of hates us, but we can actually use that to our advantage. I guess because we pissed him off by approaching his nest, he just really wants to roast us. But that's not a bad thing, if we wait around here for a little bit. Kill this boy because he's pissing me off. There we go. So if you actually stay here for long enough, he'll stop breathing fire. Now's the time to run away. and just making things a lot easier for us to deal with. And then if we wait and let him do a home pass, we have to be far enough away for him to do that. If we're patient enough, we now have a clear bridge all to our own for like maybe a minute, so you might want to hurry along here. But once we're on the other side, we're pretty safe and in the clear. Just gotta deal with these last few stragglers and we'll be okay. Ah, damn Blight is too clever for us. Tried to strike him with our magic, but no such luck. Just picking up these last few items here, probably not worth the risk, but I'm nothing if not a gambler. And we're good. Yep, that right there is probably the most perilous moment on your first playthrough, because you will not know how to deal with that like I did. And you'll probably hem and haw there at the bridge before eventually running for it and hopefully making it. Alternatively, you'll just end up dying. Whoa, what's this contraption here? Well, we seem to have opened up someone's dwelling. Someone who does not seem too happy about that. Well, what's the worst that could happen if we go there? Sure. One other useful feature of riposting, as well as backstabbing for that matter, frame drops, is that during the duration of the animation you have complete invincibility frames. If you get hit by an attack during it, you will take no damage whatsoever. Useful during group encounters like this. Basically, parrying is a very worthwhile technique to learn. But coming all the way around here, you'll notice that we're in a somewhat similar structure to one we were in previously. Looks almost identical to that other shortcut tower. I meant to phrase things a bit more glibly, but yes, in case you're wondering, this does lead to another shortcut. Opposite side of the other one that we opened up. That's another great thing about the shortcut-focused design of this game, is they're placed near perfectly, just when you would want one. Just to return back to the start or have a little bit of permanent progress, the game gives you one. Of course, this one is guarded by some much fiercer enemies, these goo boys here. Actually, I keep calling them boys, but these ones, lore-wise, are probably girls, and we'll get into exactly why that is much later. But yeah, they are quite tricky to deal with because of those shields of theirs. They cover pretty much 180 degrees in front of them, and they are very effective at blocking. However, if you can get around to the side, you can still do pretty good damage. And of course, as the Royal, we always just have the option of spamming magic to deal with whatever is in our way. So are you convinced yet that the Royal is the best starting class? And here's our shortcut. And we're back to the start. Got the boys to deal with since we didn't take them out this time. I would have liked to have done a no-death run of this area, but it is what it is. And yeah, this is what happens if you approach this area a bit less cautiously than we did initially. It can be pretty hectic, which for a new player can be kind of tricky to deal with. No problemo for me, however. I swear I'm not insufferable, I just play one in Let's Play. Alright, and you'll notice that that door we opened up has a rather massive fog wall in front of it. Where else have we seen a massive fog wall before? That's right, right before the Demon Vanguard. That's the tell that you're about to fight a boss. The Phalanx Demon. So these googles here are just part of a much larger organism, a kind of frame rate destroying one. It's actually not the boss that's causing that issue, I'll discuss why that is, and I was hoping not to run into it, but the boss. So for a being that is made up of so many shields, it's kind of tricky to deal with. It is a proper phalanx formation guarded from pretty much all sides. One advantage is that many of these small components are rather lazy, and thus end up lagging behind. So with swift footwork you can either get around them entirely and attack the boss directly, or deal with them directly, and thus reduces the boss's defensive capabilities. You can also just lob firebombs, and this is honestly the most effective strategy. This is why you want to save them. And once you are out of firebombs, that's when it's time to bring out the turpentine. Coat your weapon to set it on fire, greatly increasing its damage, at least the things weak to fire, which this just so happens to be. Now we only need a single strike from behind to deal with them. One nice thing about this boss, by the way, is that these enemies, even the ones that make up the boss, actually drop upgrade materials. It's not the worst idea in the world to farm them if you really want, but I wouldn't especially recommend it because there are better farming places for upgrade materials later on. Yeah, when the Phalanx starts to lose its components, that's when it gets really cagey. And just starts kind of turtling up especially hard. At that point, you might as well just stop going for the little gals and just start dealing damage directly to the boss. Without its shields, it is really not dangerous at all. And with that, we've obtained the power of another demon's soul. As well as many smaller souls with it. don't forget to touch the archstone that appears. That's the only way to pick up the boss's soul in particular. And next time we'll touch the archstone and head back to the Nexus and see what awaits us.